Okay, welcome back. This is part two. I'm here with this amazing author. Uh, Her book is called Human Trial, and I love the title because life's a trial. But anyway, I'm here with Audrey Gale, and this is part two. Audrey, in the previous segment, we were talking about the wonderful news that your dad had been sharing, I guess, with his physician. And tell some more about the doctor's response. I love it when they saw spontaneous remission. Oh my God. And as you said, cure is a four-letter word. But anyway, pick up from there. What happened?
It was difficult because, of course, we could not say that my dog's vet, had treated my father, or he would have been shut down, fined, jailed, or who knows what. So it wasn't until my veterinarian actually died, passed on some years later, that I felt comfortable about talking about this situation. So his medical doctors called it the damnedest case of spontaneous remission they'd ever seen. And we just went along with that, and we didn't say anything, actually, just to keep the vet safe. But that was when the vet was very generous with the information he had. It wasn't 100% accurate, but it was enough for me to start looking back on people like Royal Rife and seeing what they did. And then that kind of quickly leads you to the electromagnetic basis of life, or we could just call it frequencies or vibrations, which is the fundamental makeup of everything in the universe, including us, including anything solid that we perceive as solid. Everything is made up of electromagnetic energy, and that is what early um, particle physics, Einstein, Niels Bohr, quantum physics, and the theory of relativity, those were the two main contributors to the new age of physics in the early 1900s. So they're talking about the energetic basis. This particular doctor has found an energetic basis for disease. He's cured the disease with an energetic based treatment or approach. And it just like finally it all just clicked for me. This is unusual. Science is science. The Einstein and Bohr were working 125 years ago. Why hasn't traditional medicine looked at it seriously? And and yet they use the technology for things like MRI machines and so forth, but look at it as a treatment possibility, maybe even a cure. So that's kind of where I came out, is it seems like there's this interlocking directorate of the really big drug companies that have grown rapidly in power and wealth after World War II, the um, the medical establishment, and by that I don't mean your doctor and my doctor, I mean the guys at the top who decide what you have to know to graduate, how you should be educated, how you must be recertified over and over, and then they hold you to a standard of practice which limits your options anyway, and our own government officials and regulators. They're all of a fabric. They're all taking money. They're all accepting contributions to their political campaigns, and even the medical schools are taking large contributions from drug companies, which then helps them control the curricula.
Well, I
So
think
it's really,
we're all familiar with that, Audrey. And over the years, 50 years now, my daughter Sherry Ann was born in 1968, and we came up against that wall of uh, uniform thinking, compliance, follow our way or the highway. And yours truly, my daughter's salvation lied in the services of a chiropractor. The
mm,
in her neck, apparently we're placing pressure on the brain stem and giving her convulsions. And in one treatment with my good friend, Dr. Don Vigiani, my daughter was cured. Well, she was relieved and didn't require the medications anymore. So when we come up against this wall, where I try, and again, I'm an advocate for handicapped people and the rights of people, as you're mentioning, when they come up against that wall. But I've learned that there are a lot of very humane medical doctors who go outside the traditional realm and they keep it quiet. They go to chiropractors themselves. They go for myofascial massage. They take
Mm.
supplements and vitamins, which were going to be regulated at one time back in the day. Imagine that,
Oh, I
vitamin
remember.
as prescriptions. So, this was your motivation to write this novel because I see you incorporate your Dr. Adam Wakefield, a physicist with PhD who became a highly advanced microscope or with a highly advanced microscope, able to see and explore the microcosm, I guess. So I'm trying to steering you back to the novel as to taking that meeting that wall. We can't do anything about it. It's the Goliath. We're the David. Can't do anything about it, except we can get around it. And you found a way. I mean, in three different ways, including your dad's miraculous, um, spontaneous remission. And I'll tell you the truth, my friend, when I hear that, I just smile, and inside I'm going like, mm-hmm. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to convince this person, but moving on, it's like this is where this novel, which I love the title, The Human Trial. And what you're describing is this, I don't want to call it confrontation, but this, when two forces meet equally and opposite, something's got to give.
Yeah.
The way to do that is to go around it and keep your mouth shut. I think that's the best way. Pardon me for being plain about that, but you did it and you got your way. But you come up with these characters. Tell us more about this intrigue about how did you mask? There must be some frustration there. I can sense it even today. But how did you get around that? I love it. I love the title, The Human Trial.
Well, I do appreciate everything you're saying because there's a lot of people that are going around it. And yet, at some point, I asked a chiropractor friend of mine, Dr. James Bear, you might know him. He's pretty famous in the frequency technology world. He said, you just have to keep moving forward. And what you need to do is build on the wave of dissatisfaction that is out there that you've bumped into, that I've bumped into, and start to demand change. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but we have a right to optimum health and all the information we need to have optimum health. So getting back to the book, so Dr. Adam Wakefield is a PhD physicist who meets Dr. Randall Archer, who is also at Harvard. They're both at Harvard. And Randall Archer is getting his pathology specialization as a medical doctor. And they meet in the lab. And because Dr. Wakefield has built such an incredibly more powerful and more clear microscope than any light microscope known even to this day, um, he talks Randall very reluctantly concurs, to examine living specimen under a microscope. Now, again, I think this might surprise a lot of people, but medicine to this day studies dead specimen. They're not fully dead, they're set, they're stabilized, they're usable for a long period. These are the last specimen slides like this that have a blotch on them that looks nothing like more than a smudge, and that is a specimen of some disease biopsy or blood sample, etc., fluids. And then they set it with a chemical wash. They set it because they say that there's no microscopes strong enough to be able to see it without chemical additions. Well, Dr. Wakefield convinced Randall Archer that, well, my microscope is 60,000 times or more powerful than anything in this lab at Harvard. And so let's just take a peek. And even though it was Randall was not thrilled about it because he was afraid. He was trying so hard his whole life to fit in because he came from nothing, and here he is at Harvard with all these blue bloods and so forth. But he does it. He makes a few slides from whatever was fresh that day in the biopsies, and they look at under Dr. Wakefield's microscope, and for the first time, they see a vibrantly dancing little microbe on the slide. And although they were reluctant to call it or name it anything, they eventually sort of believed that they were looking at the viral state of terminal illness. And all of the draws, all of the specimen were drawn from terminal patients. So there's a whole lot of theories that aren't fleshed out in this book because it's not a medical book. But the net being that just like everything in the universe that I've already said is electromagnetic in basis, these little microbes are evolving in our system. As our system is getting more toxic, those microbes are evolving to respond to that. That's what we do in a toxic environment. That's what everything we see does. The trees, the flowers, everything evolves or responds. So they're seeing that and they're realizing that. And then they discover the next step, which is the treatment of those microbes at their own frequency. And they realize they have something that is likely to undo the medical world as they knew it. Now, this is the 1930s. I said it in the 30s for the specific reason that one, that's when the real scientists were working. And two, it was the Great Depression. Everybody was under a tremendous amount of pressure. Everyone was running scared to some degree.
Mhm.
So it added pressure to the story and characters.
Well, it sounds fascinating, complicated, insightful. This is something everybody, should read because I think, you're sort of like the wave of the future, cloaking facts, uh, possibilities, alternatives set in this novel, The Human Trial. It is amazing. Hold that
Yeah.
thought. We'll be right back. Everybody can get this amazing book, The Human Trial, on Amazon. And please be so kind as to do me a big favor. Click the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up on your social media. Remember, it's free, and help us continue bringing great stories to the world on the Global Village shows. We'll be right back.